This is Heather Moore again. I'm going to go into more detail for the press about why maybe I don't know why they moved forward. They used my information from my SEC whistleblower claim to go ahead and raid Byron Brown's office after his brother reached out to my roommates to tamper with me, not only as a healthcare fraud victim, but it may have had something to do with the fact that this is a Me Too scandal. It's an exceptionally violent rape and murder. And it was Byron Brown is covering for the University of Missouri, specifically under Governor Jay Nixon. And the Republicans, too. The Republicans are covering this up as well. Because they're all profiting from these fraud scams. But just so you know, this is a legitimate accusation of rape and homicide, and via healthcare fraud or criminal medical negligence. And normally that would fall under quality of care. But when they're reaching out to politicians and law enforcement like Byron Brown and sending people to screw with me at my house and screw with the roommates and lawyers trespassing on my landlord's property to try to stalk me, to coerce me and intimidate me into signing a civil agreement and a non-disclosure agreement so they can avoid prison and a publicity scandal. That's not quality of care. That's just domestic violence and rape victim tampering. It's victim tampering. That's no longer quality of care issue between me and a doctor. When these doctors are having their powerful police and political friends threaten me and use their family members to reach out to people around me to threaten me, that's way beyond quality of care. That's just flat out domestic violence and victim tampering. So, I have a recording of a lady named Megan, who's apparently one of the investigators at the University of Missouri's Title IX office. I recorded it, I believe, in March of 2016. I was covered under United. They were repeatedly making false claims to my United. United's caseworkers were trying to get me out of that network to another network to try to get me cancer treatment because of all the ER visits that was costing them a fortune. I recorded all the 911 calls. I recorded Megan telling me that Ellen Erdley, the highly publicized Title IX administrator that they hired after Sasha Minu Curry, rape victim Sasha Minu Curry, made a video recording like this with her phone, crying, unable to tell about what University of Missouri did to her. She didn't understand what was happening to her. She committed suicide because of their felonies that they admitted to in the Outside the Lines ESPN documentary. So these video recordings that I'm making as another of Mizzou's murdered rape victims is an homage to her. And I don't, when you get recorded, when Megan got recorded telling me that Ellen Early had fired my rapist, Dr. Adam Beckett, for sexually assaulting me, why is the rape report falsified by the police? When I talked to some of the people at MUPD, I was like, who does oversight on your cops? And they said, we answer to the chief and the chancellors. Well, the Title IX's office are the chancellors. And they eventually hired Andrew Cartwright out of New York. I contacted him, never got a response. I contacted the new president, Mun Choi. And you have to keep in mind that what was happening to me was so nasty that it inspired when I wrote the email to Sasha Minu Curry and CC'd it to the civil rights scholar I'd worked for, Chad Cronin, and the NAACP. They had experienced such nasty violence that I said if the football players went on strike, it would devastate their entire local economy. They liked it. They put it together, they pulled it off, and took it to the next level and demanded resignations from a Chancellor, Lofton Bowen, or Bowen Lofton, whatever his name is, and Mike Wolf. Immediately, the interim Chancellor was threatened. The interim president was threatened. They tried to kill me right in front of Katie Huddleston Smith, who specializes in victim tampering. She's a victim tampering investigator for Columbia Police Department. Her retired physician father saved my life by teaching me how to get antibiotics off the internet without a prescription. So when I went back to the police department, I hadn't read the report. I didn't know the rape report had been falsified all these years. And eventually went back and recorded a Sergeant Fish. Well, we think you're mentally ill, and we're standing by that report. And I said, and what are you doing about the fraud? These doctors falsifying their medical records to deny me cancer treatment as that man's rape victim. Well, aren't the feds handling that fraud investigation? Well, I don't know if the feds are or not. We have our own investigation. They're not handling our investigation because they're under investigation. And the feds, I'm referring to Darla Munoz Natolowai, who's hateful gay bashing and stalking of me, and she works for Homeland Security, and Homeland Security's trying to cover their ass on that embarrassment. She's a huge embarrassment to them. And then there's Virginia Piper, who's profiting from the fraud, and one of her friends, Susan Boyce, and her boyfriend was recorded. Their sexual misconduct was recorded. So there's a lot of sexual misconduct by cops and doctors and Chad Cronin and all these people. When you have free reign over somebody's life and you've got all this power and everybody's defrauding everybody and it's complete anarchy, of course there's going to be sexual misconduct. It's not like I think I'm the sexiest person on the planet and everybody wants to screw me. Half the time they were coming on to me and it went right over my head because I'm autistic. I don't think like that. I'm an intellectual. It takes a lot to get me interested in somebody like that. And what Byron Brown and Cuomo and Letitia James is trying to cover up is the fact that Jay Nixon, Democrat Governor Jay Nixon, his MoHealthNet director, who was on staff at Family Health Center with Beth Sweeney, got recorded for several months coming on to me. And I recorded Nanette Ward, my Central Missouri Stop Human Trafficking Coalition victims advocate, recorded her telling me that Beth fired me for mentioning the fact that she wanted to have an affair and tried to tell me to pursue the malpractice and the discrimination by the doctors without mentioning the fact that she fired me for recording her trying to have an affair. So and Nanette Ward was represented by legal counsel from the University of Missouri as though she were an MU faculty member. So I have MU affiliates telling me on audio and video telling me I'm being murdered when they're refusing you cancer treatment and falsifying medical records, which is a felony. It's HIPAA violation. And then submitting those records to false claims. They're committing multiple felonies with these falsified records to deny me cancer treatment, to hide not only their frauds, but their sexual misconduct. That's felony murder. That's not a stretch. And this was witnessed by Ruth O'Neill, an attorney who is now an administrative hearing judge and a guardian ad litem with mocasa.org, Missouri CASA. She marched me into Boone Hospital Center to make sure I got that referral to Family Health Center, which is a University of Missouri teaching facility. And I recorded the South Providence Family Medicine, which is another MU teaching facility, telling me that they were sister clinics and that whatever happened at one was going to happen at the other, and that she may not be able to make an appointment for me because Family Health Center fired me. They don't even share the same record system. If you need to get records from South Providence Family Medicine, you've got to go to the MU hospital to get those records. Your records at Family Health Center of Boone County are held there at their clinic. So what they're openly saying is you don't get a second opinion. They are blacklisting people. If you confront your doctor about malpractice or discrimination or something that you feel is wrong, they fire you, and they put this in writing. What I'm telling you, they've confessed to in writing. They sent me letters. One lady said, "Damn, that's bold." And they did it at the time because they knew I was going septic and rupturing and thought I was going to die any minute. I've got a prescription for nitroglycerin. On all of my medical records at MU, right up until 2016, I didn't have any cardiac issues. They gave me a Tenolol for sinus tachycardia, which kept because I'm autistic, it can get us flustered, and we internalize all of the sensory sounds, and it can jack up our heart rate, and then that can elevate our blood pressure, so the Tenolol manages both. I wasn't on any nitroglycerin. I wasn't given nitroglycerin until after I started going real septic, and the infection got to the point that it was shutting down my kidneys and my other major organs, and I was building up fluid over the heart, and then I had 2 heart attacks in the University of Missouri ER, which they denied. I recorded it. And then they played it off like it was nothing. They knew when they gave me an IV to give me fluids, that was dangerous. I recorded a Catholic health nurse in Buffalo. I said, "Well, how come you're not giving me fluids through an IV?" She said, "You have heart attacks because of congestive heart failure that can bring on a heart attack." So if it's common knowledge that happens, then what they did, they knew. They knew when they were hooking me up to IVs that it was potentially deadly. And then they kept lying and saying that I wasn't having heart attacks. I was faking it for the narcotics. Well, I recorded them offering me narcotics and me refusing their offers for morphine. And I said, "Give me antibiotics. Treat the sepsis and get this cancer treated." And I recorded them telling me repeatedly they were making referrals to oncology. And then when I would call a week later, call Mizzou and say, "Where's my referral?" "Well, there's nothing in your records that any oncology was ordered." So they have, and that was the same pattern that was going on here, or going on while I was in Buffalo. They were saying they were making referrals, telling me that, and then in the records making sure it didn't happen, or saying that I refused. So what they're trying to do is make it look like I'm refusing cancer treatment. Here's the thing. This has been going on since 2013. Originally, after Beth fired me, and then wrote in my records that I terminated my care, what they had to do is they have to cover up the fact that she not only sexually molested, what she did was sexual molestation. She really had me convinced that she was in love with me, and that we were really good friends, and that we were going to be friends someday, and I didn't realize she was just being sexually exploitative. And now she's clutching her pearls going, "Oh, I don't want her anywhere near my kids." Her kids are grown, first of all, and I've gone nowhere near her and her family, other than going down to to the Family Health Center, Boone County, to tell them they need to clean up their mess. I was on a federal grant there. They don't get to fire you off of a federal grant because of sexual misconduct. And their DEA violations. They wrote for all those narcotics and then falsified the records as to why they wrote for them. So my guess is, if they go after Beth Sweeney, she's going to snitch them out for all their stuff they've been doing all these years. And that's not just the doctors. She'll probably snitch out the cops, too. Especially on the Sasha Minokuri scandal. Which when I post that article, it's going to say Mizzou police did not pursue the sexual assault. And that's, in this particular case, the police were lying to me, saying they were doing something about it, and then ultimately stabbed me in the back by falsifying the rape report. So I have to stop because I'm at 15 minutes. I'll go into this more.